Hi everyone, Alan Charlotte here from the Communication and Conflict YouTube channel, talking about my book, A Guide to Effective Communication for Conflict Resolution. So if you haven't seen the book already and you haven't seen the other videos, it's a book about how we communicate and how we can effectively communicate when we're involved in a conflict of some kind and we're looking to try to find better ways of interacting such that we can resolve that conflict. So today's video is about principle 3, which is that we have the right to pass. And this is actually one of the principles that quite often almost can be quite surprising to people. That we have the right to pass. Basically, that we have the right to pass is that we have the right to say no to certain things. And it's interesting how often it can be a significant factor in an unresolved conflict in the cases that I work in mediation, and which I talk with people about one-to-one in conflict coaching sessions, is that often a challenge that we can face in a difficult situation is our own acknowledgement of our right to pass over certain things, that we can say no to doing certain things. We can feel that we have to do something, and it might be something we're very uncomfortable with. So it might be something our boss has asked us to do, but we feel uncomfortable doing it. Or it might be something which a family member, or maybe even we sense an expectation from our family as a whole to do something, and we're not comfortable doing it. Or it can be the root of peer pressure issues for teenagers, but also for adults as well, because it's not just teenagers who experience peer pressure. That pressure to agree to something that we're not comfortable with. And acknowledging our right to pass is beneficial for both ourselves, because we can actually recognize that we have a choice in any situation that we find to be difficult, but also it means we recognize other people's right to pass, where we think they should be doing something differently to how they are doing. It doesn't mean to say we can't give a view to people about certain things, but if we don't acknowledge their right to pass, the chances are we start trying to kind of almost force people to do something that we believe is right for them or better for them, or that we can have some kind of expectation that they should do as we expect of them. Now, a lot of people might say, yeah, but when you're employed in a job, your boss can tell you what to do. And yeah, up to a point that's true, they can tell you what to do, but if it's something you're uncomfortable with, you have the right to say no. Now, obviously there might be consequences to that, but it's still your choice to either choose to go with what you're told to do or not to go with what you're told to do. There are consequences, but it's still your choice. When we tell ourselves we have no choice, when we do, we render ourselves powerless. And in a lot of difficult situations, people have done something that they're very uncomfortable with, and maybe they've done something repeatedly that they're uncomfortable with, but they've always told themselves that they have no choice, and it's the other person's fault for expecting it of them. But if they were uncomfortable doing it, and they've not found the way of saying that they don't wish to do something, it's actually as much their responsibility that they've continued to do it as it is the person who's expected it of them. What's also interesting quite often is that people have not even tried to say no to certain expectations made of them, maybe by their partner or their family or their boss or a friend. They've not even considered saying no to doing something, and then have found when they have been given the space to do so, possibly in mediation, or they've chosen to actually create a time where they can address that they're uncomfortable doing something with the person who's expecting it of them, that actually the other person has been fine with it, and they've been interested to see that actually, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to do that, and I can see why that's not a good thing to do. Now, you can't guarantee that's always going to be the case, particularly if people have got used to the expectation that someone would do something that they've asked them to do, and then one day they go against that. But actually, very often it is the case that people are willing to listen to why it is that we're uncomfortable doing something, and that's why we're choosing to say no to it. Um, and and this aspect of things is very much significant in conflict resolution, because it once people recognize that, it can change their sense of powerlessness, which they have when they tell themselves they can't say no to someone, or to a request made by them, or an expectation from their organization or their family. It can change their feeling of powerlessness into a sense of their own always present but perhaps not always recognized personal power. It's the basis of assertiveness. It's the basis of recognizing our own autonomy in a situation. Um, and and actually, when we see we have that choice, it means that we often find an outer conflict situation to be much less stressful, because we recognize that if we really don't want to continue to do this thing that we've previously told ourselves we have to do, and we have no choice about it, when we recognize we do have a choice, it means we know that at any time we choose not to continue doing that thing that we're uncomfortable with, whether it's a job at work that we feel we shouldn't be doing, whether it's something which our family expects us to do, maybe going to a certain family gathering that we don't want to be at for some reason, or our partner wants us to do, that actually we're uncomfortable with, in any situation within our relationship. Once we recognize we have that choice, sometimes it means we actually are willing to continue doing that thing, because we know that at any time we want to, we can say no to it. Or it may be that we actually say no to it at that time once we recognize we have the choice, and the issue can then be addressed, instead of it kind of festering inside us and then perhaps coming out in kind of anger in other places where it's not appropriate to the situation that we have the problem over. So that's the right to pass. It's a significant factor in many organizations where people feel kind of pressurized to do something, but for whatever reason they haven't expressed that they're uncomfortable with it, and that they'd like to say no to it. And as I said earlier, it may not be that in the long term they actually do continue to say no to doing something, but the fact that they want to have the choice in the matter is what's significant, because that can then mean people feel powerless and therefore quite resentful about expectations on them. Whereas when they know they have the right to pass, whether they choose to exercise it or not can make a significant difference to the relationship that exists between the people involved, the person expecting it, but also the person who's feeling uncomfortable. So therefore, just simply acknowledging that we have the right to pass, both for ourselves when we feel uncomfortable about something, but also that others will feel uncomfortable about things that we request of them, or even think we can expect of them. When we recognize that, then it means that we're able to have a more kind of equitable relationship with someone, even in the situation where, like, I'm the boss and the other person's the employee. If I continue expecting someone to do something they're uncomfortable with, and I think they shouldn't have any choice in the matter, in my own interests, in the long term, it's better for me to acknowledge that, because at some point they'll either just tell me to go away in no uncertain terms, or they'll start to undermine my request because I'm doing something which is continuously putting them in an uncomfortable position. And people won't put up with that either outwardly or inwardly for a continued length of time. So it's in my interest, if I'm the boss, to acknowledge that actually I'm asking someone to do something they're uncomfortable with. So if I keep doing it and keep doing it, at some point it will come back to bite me. So this, as I say, it's kind of what I would always ask with any of these principles whenever I'm talking about in the video, or as you'll find in the book itself asks you to kind of consider things both from your own perspective, but from others as well. And it has exercises and activities and a lot of questions within it that draw out this understanding of this principle within your own context. What I would always ask is that you just consider, where are you not acknowledging that you have the right to say no to something that you're uncomfortable with, and because you haven't done that, because you haven't asserted that right to pass, it's actually causing a lot of stress in your life. And also similarly, where are you finding that people seem to be resisting something that you want of them, whoever it is, someone you employ, or someone in your family, or your partner, or a friend? They seem to be resisting something that you want them to do. And to what extent in that situation are you not acknowledging that they have a right to say no to that expectation? Because the more you try to kind of push people into doing something that they are clearly uncomfortable with, without even exploring their reasons why, if you're doing that without actually engaging with the person and trying to find out why they're finding it difficult, it's guaranteed that at some point it will become stuck, and it could become a very serious issue between you, because you just are not acknowledging that the other person has a right to say no to what you expect of them, whoever they are. Whoever they are. There are no exceptions to this. So as I say, even if you're the boss, you're paying the person £200,000 a year to do what you expect of them. If you don't acknowledge that they have the right to say no to certain things, first of all, you're not a very good boss, because you're not wanting to hear people's feedback on certain things. But also, you're guaranteed to, in time, have an employee who actually you won't want to pay £200,000 a year to, because they're not doing the things you expect of them, but you're not listening to the reasons why they're not, and therefore the chances are their actions will undermine or resist what you're expecting of them, instead of you gaining an understanding as to why it's difficult for them to carry out that expectation. So I'll leave it there. As I said, the book will take you through much more of this, much more kind of self-reflection about where you're either not acknowledging your own right to pass, or you're not acknowledging the right to pass in others, and how through that simple acknowledgement, where the power lies to make a decision about actions, that it always lies with us, not with somebody else. Through that simple recognition, it can transform just our experience of an unresolved conflict, and in many cases can lead to its resolution. Excuse me. And that can be in itself quite liberating in many relationships. So acknowledging that people have the right to say no to us, that they don't have to do what we expect of them, and that actually we don't have to say yes to everybody who makes a request of us, or particular people that make a request of us that we feel for some reason we can't say no to them. If they can't accept our right to say no, then the chances are we don't have a very good relationship with them. But what part are we playing in not addressing it with them, and actually saying, I'm uncomfortable with doing this, I don't want to do it, and then perhaps engaging in a conversation about why that is. So I hope you found that interesting, hope you found it useful. If you want to find out more, please check out the book, and if you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section below. If you like the video, please like the video, so that other people can see that, and share it with anybody who you think this video might be of particular relevance to or interest to. Thanks very much. See you soon for the next one. Bye bye.